Undeclared Anglo-German war raging inside the G7. The leadership of the Western G7 alliance is in the middle of a civil war pitting an English alliance against a Germanic alliance, multiple sources claim. The arrival of a new British educated emperor in Japan and the rearrest last week of former Nissan Renault chairman Carlos Ghosn are part of this war, according to Japanese military intelligence sources. The possibility of Japan returning to be an independent country clearly has the Khazarian mafia rattled. We received the following message last week from a perpetually drunk and widely disrespected gangster by the name of Morita. Your words will lead to the death of 100,000 Japanese on May 11th. Morita was apparently referring to a call to nationalize the Khazarian-owned Bank of Japan. The military police need to arrest him as soon as possible and force him to disclose who paid him to convey this threat. We can also point out that the White Dragon Society has been given the option to use as many as 500 kiloton nuclear warheads. That means we could retaliate against any new attack on Japan with the destruction of, say, Frankfurt, Tel Aviv, and Zurich, Switzerland. However, unlike the Satanists, the WDS does not believe in using the mass murder of innocents to achieve political ends. Instead, we use pinpoint murder of the guilty. In case you think we are bluffing, it is worth pointing out that over 200 people involved in the Fukushima mass murder have already been executed, including so-called Ambassador Christopher Stevens and Black Pop Peter Hans Clovenbach. This time, any new punishments would include the furor of the DVD Nazi continuum of the Khazarian Mafia, WDS sources say. The new Führer and head of the Black Sun organization, who replaced the executed George Bush Sr., is, according to Japanese military intelligence, Donatus, the Landgrave of Hesse. He is a descendant of Queen Victoria and a relative of Adolf Hitler, as well as of the Italian Emperor Vittorio Emanuele, according to MI6 and other sources. His British cousin have already conveyed a message to him to cease and desist. This is a message to him from the WDS. Surrender while you still have a chance to use your considerable talents to help save the planet, or your entire genocidal bloodline will be permanently deleted from the human genome. Okay, now let's look at what sides there are of secret warfare between Anglo and German factions within the Western elite. The most obvious thing, of course, is a turmoil over Brexit. British intelligence sources say that Brexit has already happened as legally required on March 29th, despite posturing by politicians who pretend it has not. A visible sign of this is the fact that the British passports issued after the date do not conclude a mention of the European Union. Prime Minister Theresa May is still trying to vent to push a deal that would hand control of the British military intelligence apparatus to the Germans, they say. The Germans, as we mentioned last week, have already rolled back the results of World War II by reoccupying France. Leaders of the French Yellow Vest movement point out that the French President Emmanuel Macron was an employee of the German Rothschild Sheikh Gotha has family and needs to protect himself with foreign bodyguards. They also note that German armored vehicles with US stars instead of swastikas are being used to repress the yellow and vest protesters. Now, in what way, or may not be a coincidence, a ship carrying German car exports has sunk in the British Channel. Then the son of British MI6 chief Sir Alex Younger died in a mysterious car crash. British intelligence sources say they will soon take drastic action against German-backed fifth columnist. That's why they have prepared a remote Christmas Island prison camp as their version of Guantanamo Bay to house senior traitors like Tony Blair, they say. As mentioned earlier, this proxy war is also raging in Japan. The readdress of Carlos Ghosn last week was a move specifically aimed at Landgrave donators. The Japanese military intelligence sources say the Germans were using Ghosn to try to get Japanese military secrets from Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, they say. Mitsubishi is now merging with Boeing and Lockheed Martin, and the German military faction was trying to penetrate this growing alliance, they explain. Japanese help is now especially important for Boeing because purchases by Japanese allies are keeping it afloat, the Japanese sources say. Further help will be needed as Boeing faces global stigma from the 737. There may be a global boycott, divest, and sanctions campaign against and not just its commercial airplanes, but also its military products, Pentagon sources elaborate. Now Pentagon sources are telling us that the investigation into the recent crash of the Ethiopian Air Boeing 737 aircraft indicates it was done via remote hijacking by French and German intelligence. The French and their German masters were able to kill UN officials who worked against French interests in Africa, while at the same time helping to sell Airbus jet allies by ruining the reputation of their Boeing rivals, they say. The fact is that now, as a result of the fallout from this crash, Boeing is removing remote hijacking equipment from all its planes. While Airbus planes still have this equipment installed, a quick search has revealed at least 3 crashes that appear to have been the result of a remote hijacking of Airbus planes. The world needs China and Japan to step up to break the Airbus-Boeing duopoly, the Pentagon sources say. Planes will now be certified not just by the FAA, but in concert with the EU and China to protect the public, they say. The U.S. military is also preparing to distance itself from bloated and greedy U.S. military equipment manufacturers, they say. Turkey may be rewarded for standing with Russia on the S-400 anti-aircraft missile deal with 5th-generation Sukhoi 57 plans instead of that overpriced of Lockheed Crab F-35, they note. Sukhoi may sell this to India, China, Iran, Venezuela, and even Saudi Arabia after it dumps the petrodollar. They continue. The mention of Saudi Arabia dumping the petrodollar is a clear sign that the de facto U.S. military-controlled government there is preparing to move Saudi Arabia away from Khazarian mafia-controlled CIA, sources say. U.S. President Donald Trump's labeling of Iran's Revolutionary Guard as a foreign terrorist organization may be a setup labeling Israelis, Defense Forces Mossad, Shin Bet, and Amman military intelligence as FTO when the September 11 truth is exposed, the Pentagon sources add. The Pentagon sources are fully aware that both Iranian and Israeli leaders have been getting orders to start World War III from their masters in Zurich, Switzerland. Now, as Israel heads into a general election this week, this is a reminder of the citizens of Israel who still don't get it. Benjamin Netanyahu works for the very same Nazis who carried out the Holocaust of burning offering to Molech, Baal, Sel, Satan, etc., in order to force the Ashkenazi Jews out of their ancestral European homelands and into Israel. The Israeli people have a choice. They can make peace on their own terms and come up with a two-state solution, or they can face a war against the combined forces of Turkey, Iran, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, Lebanon, and Qatar. A reminder to those superstitious fanatics who are mind-controlled by ancient forgeries. The U.S. military will not fight to defend the rogue state into which Israel has degenerated. Wake up and face reality. There will be no Gog versus Magog war. It's over. It's time to start a new age. There are many signs this new era has already begun. For example, in what is definitely a game changer for the planet, Chinese President Xi Jinping's European visit has resulted in an agreement between the BIS and China to recognize Asian gold as money. As background knowledge, Asia controls over 85% of the world's known gold, but most of this gold has been blacklisted from the Western financial system even since the Nixon shock of 1971. The reintegrating that gold into world's financial system will amount to a huge shift of financial power away from the Rothschild. In a related development, Mexican sources say the meeting between Mexican billionaire Carlos Slim and Japanese Emperor Naruhito, about which the NSA had informed us last week, was to discuss the founding of the independent Mexican Central Bank. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador is establishing an Aztec bank in cooperation with Slim to bypass the existing banking system and distribute social benefits directly to the poor. They say, we know that Italy was moving to nationalize its central bank and seize its gold. Many other countries will follow. Finally, in a sign, the new age is becoming interesting. We know that China is getting ready to sell magnetic mushrooms.